John Miller stood tall in front of the huge round table where 50 alien leaders sat watching him. The room was silent. Every eye, stalk, and sensing organ focused on the human ambassador. After careful thought, Earth has decided to leave the Galactic Council, John said. His voice was firm. He did not shake or show fear. The aliens began to whisper to each other. Some made clicking sounds. Others hissed. A few laughed. Exthelor, the blue-skinned Zagonian who led the council, waved a long hand for quiet. Ambassador Miller, is this some kind of joke? Humans cannot simply leave. We can, and we are, John replied. For 30 years, you have called on us when you had problems to solve. When the Draconians and Feluvians almost went to war, humans fixed it. When the star near Rigel IV began to die, humans found a way to save the planets there. But when we asked for help last month after the asteroid hit our Pacific Ocean, you all voted no. That was a minor event, Exthelor said with a wave of his hand. 3 million people died, John said, his voice getting louder. And the council sent no aid ships, no medicine, nothing. But last week, you all voted to spend 10 times that amount of money on a vacation spot on Centaur Prime. Many aliens looked away, not meeting John's eyes. Humans are done being used, John continued. We joined this council as equals, but you treat us like tools. Tools you only pick up when something breaks. We deserve better. John placed his council badge on the table. The small metal pin made a loud sound in the quiet room. He turned and walked out. Behind him, the aliens began to yell and argue. Outside the Grand Council building, John got into a small ship. His assistant, Maria Lee, waited for him. How did they take it? She asked. About like we thought they would, John said with a sigh. They didn't believe it at first. Then they got angry. Did anyone try to change your mind? No. John stared out the window at the beautiful alien city. Tall towers of crystal and metal stretched to the sky. They still think we'll come back. Exthelor basically said we'll come crawling back the next time Earth has a problem. The ship lifted off, heading for the space station, where the big Earth ships waited. Back in the council room, the aliens were still arguing. Exthelor banged his fist on the table 3 times. Enough, he shouted. Let the humans go. They will learn they need us more than we need them. I'm not so sure, said Mira, a small green alien with 6 eyes. Humans solve many problems for us. We solved our own problems for thousands of years before humans joined us. Exthelor said, we will be fine without them. 2 weeks later, on Earth, President Samantha Wright stood in front of the United Nations. Hundreds of human leaders from all countries listened as she explained the decision. For too long, we have been the janitors of the galaxy, she said, called in to clean up messes, then sent away until the next crisis. No more. Today, we start a new path. Earth will stand on its own. People stood and clapped. The speech was shown on screens around the world. Most humans agreed it was time to focus on Earth first. At space stations all across the galaxy, human ships began to leave their posts. Thousands of human workers, engineers, doctors, and soldiers packed their things and headed home. As they left, small problems began to appear. A communication system on Rigel IV stopped working. The water system on Novelian Colony 7 began to leak. A trade deal between the Draconians and Mercantians fell apart over a simple misunderstanding. Small problems, hardly worth noticing. But they were just the beginning. In his private room, Exthelor received the first reports of these issues. He deleted them without reading them fully. Let the humans go, he muttered to himself. The galaxy will be better without them. He could not have been more wrong. 6 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. At first, most aliens hardly noticed. Life went on. Ships flew between worlds. Trade continued. But then bigger problems began to appear. Alan Parker stood in the main control room of the Quantum Transit Network hub on Centaur Prime. Red warning lights flashed all around him. Alarms sounded. Hundreds of aliens rushed around in panic. "The whole system is failing," said Administrator Grell, a tall insect-like alien. His 6 arms moved quickly over the control panel. "Stations across 10 sectors are going dark." Alan sighed. He was one of the few humans who had stayed behind after Earth left the Council. As chief engineer of the transit network, he couldn't abandon his post. Too many lives depended on the system working properly. "I warned you this would happen," Alan said. "The maintenance schedule I created was ignored for months." "Your human methods were too complex." Grell clicked his mandibles in frustration. "We simplified the process." "And now the network is failing," Alan pointed out. He studied the readouts. "We need to restart the main power cores in sequence, just like in the human maintenance protocols." Administrator Grell's eyes narrowed. "We will not rely on human methods. Our own engineers will develop superior solutions." 5 other alien engineers nodded in agreement. None of them looked at Alan. "People could die," Alan said. "Ships will be stranded between star systems." "Leave this to us," Grell said coldly. "You are dismissed." Alan walked out of the control room, his hands shaking with anger. He knew what would happen next. The aliens would try their own fixes. The system would get worse. And eventually, they would be forced to use his methods anyway. But by then, much damage would be done. Far away, on the small farming world of New Montana, Lisa Bennett sat on her porch watching the sunset. After 20 years as a human diplomat, she had retired to this quiet place. Many humans lived here, growing crops and raising animals just like their ancestors had done on Earth hundreds of years ago. A loud knock on her door interrupted her peaceful evening. Lisa opened it to find Sixil, her Novalian neighbor. The blue-skinned alien was breathing hard, his face filled with worry. "Lisa, please help," Sixil said. "Our colony ships are failing. The air systems are breaking down. Our children cannot breathe." Lisa grabbed her coat. "Where are the ships?" "In orbit. 5,000 of my people are up there. The Council sent repair crews, but they don't understand the human-built life support systems." Within an hour, Lisa had gathered 10 retired human engineers who lived nearby. They took a small shuttle up to the Novalian ships. The situation was worse than they had feared. The air was growing thin. Young Novalians were already unconscious. The Council repair team stood aside, watching with suspicion as the humans went to work. "The filters were installed backwards," said Paul Adams, one of the human engineers, "and the backup systems were turned off to save power." "The Council engineers said those systems were not needed," Sixil explained. Lisa shook her head. "Backup systems are always needed in space." It took the humans only 3 hours to fix what Council engineers couldn't solve in 3 days. As fresh air filled the ships, the Novalian children began to wake up. Parents wept with relief. "How can we thank you?" Sixil asked, bowing low to Lisa and her team. "No thanks needed," Lisa said. "We help because it's right." News of what happened spread quickly. On a dozen worlds, aliens who had once looked down on humans began to worry. What else might break without humans around to fix it? In the Council chambers, Hexthuller received more reports of failures across the galaxy. For the first time, a small seed of doubt grew in his mind. Perhaps the humans were more important than he had thought. But his pride would not let him admit it. Not yet. 1 year after humans left the Galactic Council, the Grand Meeting Hall had changed. Where once stood a place of order and calm discussion, now there was constant noise and argument. "The Draconians have stolen our mining rights," shouted the ambassador from Feluvia, his red scales standing up in anger. "We stole nothing. Your ships were in our space," the Draconian leader shouted back. All around the circular table, different alien groups were yelling at each other. Some stood up and pointed fingers. Others pounded the table. No one was listening to anyone else. Hexthuller, still the council leader, hit his gavel again and again. "Order. We must have order." No one paid attention to him anymore. In the back of the room, 3 junior diplomats watched the chaos. "It was never like this when the humans were here," said Vril, a young Aquilarian. "The humans were good at making everyone talk to each other," agreed Zor, from Novelian. "They listened first, then found answers that worked for everyone. Extiller still won't admit we need them," said the third, a Mercantian named Pell. "His pride will destroy the council." Far away on Earth, in a small house in Arizona, Dr. Frank Mitchell watched the council meeting on his screen. As former head of the council's diplomatic court, he still had access to the live feeds. What he saw made him sad. His screen beeped with an incoming call. Frank was surprised to see it was from Yizik, a Feluvian diplomat who had always disliked humans. "Dr. Mitchell," Yizik said when his face appeared on screen. The Feluvian looked tired and worried. "I hope I am not disturbing you." "Not at all," Frank said politely. "How can I help you?" "The Draconians are threatening to block all ships from reaching our homeworld. They say we insulted their leader, but it was just a translation error." Yizik's voice shook slightly. "In the past, your human diplomats would have fixed this in hours." Frank nodded. This was exactly the kind of small problem that humans had always solved for the council. "I'm retired now, but I can make some calls." 3 days later, Patricia Summers and her team of freelance human negotiators arrived at a neutral space station. The Draconian and Feluvian leaders met them there. Patricia had once worked for the council, but now she ran her own company helping aliens solve problems, for a fee. The translation error was simple. Patricia explained to both sides. When the Feluvian ambassador said, "Your leadership shines brightly," the computer translated it as, "Your leadership blinds us," in Draconian. The Draconian leader blinked in surprise. "That is why we were angry. We thought it was an insult." "A simple error," the Feluvian ambassador agreed. "We meant no offense." Within hours, the threat of blockade was gone. The 2 species signed a new trade agreement, with clearer translation protocols built in. Later, Patricia sent a private message back to Earth's growing network of retired diplomats and problem solvers. "They're falling apart without us, but they're too proud to admit it." Back in the council chambers, another fight broke out, this time between the Centaurians and the Rigelians over water rights. Extiller put his head in his hands. Every day brought new arguments. Without human mediators, who had always seemed so unnecessary before, ancient hatreds and new conflicts grew worse. "Perhaps," he said quietly to his assistant, "we should reach out unofficially to some human experts, just as consultants." "Shall I put that on the official agenda?" his assistant asked. Extiller quickly shook his head. "No. The council must not appear weak. We will handle this privately." But it was too late for private solutions. Across the galaxy, the council's authority was already starting to crumble. And on Earth, more and more humans were getting calls from desperate aliens asking for help. The unofficial network of human problem solvers grew larger every day. The universe was learning a hard lesson about just how much it had depended on the humans it had taken for granted. 2 years had passed since humans left the council. Now a new problem was spreading across the galaxy. Machines and systems built by humans were starting to break down everywhere. On Rigel IV, a planet known for making things that were sold across the galaxy, Kelly Martinez watched with worry. She was one of the few humans who had stayed to finish her work contract. She stood in the control room of the biggest factory on the planet as alarms blared around her. "What have you done?" she asked the alien engineers who stood nearby. The head engineer, a tall blue Aquilarian named Zeet, looked uncomfortable. "We improved the human safety systems. They were too careful. Too many backups. Too many checks. We made it faster." Kelly pointed at the screen showing the factory floor. Robots moved wildly, crashing into each other. Sparks flew. Smoke rose from machines that were overheating. "Those backups prevent disasters," Kelly said. "You can't just remove them." Zeet and the other engineers looked at the floor, embarrassed. They had thought human engineering was too simple, too careful. Now, They were watching their factory destroy itself. Kelly sighed and went to the main control panel. I can stop this, but it will take days to fix all the damage. As Kelly worked to save the factory, similar scenes played out on dozens of planets. Systems that aliens thought were over-engineered by humans revealed why all those extra parts were actually needed. Communication networks failed. Power plants shut down. Food-growing systems broke. Each time, the aliens discovered that what they thought was unnecessary in human designs was actually very important. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans were making new discoveries without the Council's rules holding them back. In a lab in Boston, engineer Daniel Brown stood in front of a small spaceship engine. Around him, other scientists watched with excitement. "The new FTL drive is ready for testing," Daniel said. "If it works, our ships will be twice as fast as any Council ship." He pressed a button. The engine hummed to life, glowing with blue energy. On the screens around the room, numbers appeared showing that the test was working perfectly. The room erupted in cheers. President Wright, who had come to watch the test, smiled widely. "This is why we left the Council," she said to Daniel. "They held us back. They said this kind of engine was impossible." Unknown to them, in a small ship orbiting Earth, a Council spy watched and recorded everything. The spy, a small green alien who could change shape to look like different species, had been sent to see what humans were doing on their own. The spy sent the recording back to the Council with an urgent message. "Humans advancing quickly. New technology will make them stronger than Council races soon." Back in the Council chambers, Extiller read the spy's report with growing worry. He turned to his most trusted advisors. "The humans are building better ships. Meanwhile, our systems are failing because we don't understand how the humans built them in the first place. Perhaps we should ask them to return," suggested one advisor carefully. Extiller shook his head. "My pride says no, but my brain says we may have no choice soon." Before they could discuss more, a new emergency message arrived. The food production systems on 3 planets had failed completely. Millions might starve. Were these systems built by humans too? Extiller asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes," his assistant said quietly, "and all our attempts to fix them have failed." Extiller closed his eyes. For 2 years, he had told everyone the galaxy was better without humans. Now evidence was piling up that he was wrong. "Send a private message to Earth," he said finally. "Ask if they have engineers who might help. Say we will pay well." His assistant looked surprised. "You're asking humans for help?" "No," Extiller said quickly. "The Council is not asking. This is just a private business arrangement. Our pride remains intact." But they all knew the truth. The Council was starting to crack. 3 years after humans left the Council, a new danger appeared in the darkness between stars. Space pirates, once kept in check by human-led patrol forces, returned to the trade routes. Olivia Grant, once commander of Earth's space fleet, was working in her garden when her old communication device beeped. She had not heard that sound in a long time. She wiped dirt from her hands and answered. "This is Captain Zorl of the Mercantian Trading Convoy," said a desperate voice. "We are under attack by pirates near the Orient sector. Council Defense Force says they cannot help. Please, Commander Grant, you saved my father's ship years ago. Now I ask you to save mine." Olivia didn't hesitate. "Send me your coordinates." Within hours, Olivia had gathered 15 former patrol captains and their ships. These were old vessels, officially retired from service, but kept ready by their captains who missed the stars. "This is not an official Earth mission," Olivia told her friends. "We're just helping someone in trouble." The small fleet of human ships jumped to the Orient sector. They found 6 Mercantian cargo ships surrounded by 12 pirate vessels. The pirates were a mix of outlaw species who had joined together, knowing the Council patrols were gone. "Attack pattern Delta," Olivia ordered. The human ships, though older, moved with perfect coordination. They had trained for years together before Earth left the Council. The pirates, surprised by the sudden arrival of human warships, scattered in confusion. 3 were captured. The rest fled. Captain Zorl's face appeared on Olivia's screen. The mercantile was crying with relief. The Council Defense Force said it wasn't their job to protect this area. No one would help us. No one but humans. We were just passing by, Olivia said with a smile. Safe travels, Captain. As the human ships returned to Earth, news of what happened spread quickly across the galaxy. Many aliens wondered why humans would help when the Council would not. In the Grand Council Hall, High Admiral Targ pounded his fist on the table. These human renegades are operating in our space. They must be stopped. And who will stop the pirates afterward? Asked a young Novalian diplomat. Our own defense force refuses to patrol the outer sectors. Targ's face turned dark purple with anger. Are you suggesting we need humans to maintain order? I'm suggesting we are failing to maintain order without them. The Novalian replied calmly. Exthelder watched this exchange with a troubled look. Reports of pirate attacks had increased tenfold since humans left. The Council Defense Force, once trained and led by human officers, had grown lazy and corrupt. After the meeting, Exthelder met privately with representatives from 5 major council species. We may need to consider opening formal talks with Earth, he said carefully. Perhaps some kind of limited cooperation. You mean ask them to come back, said the Aquilarian representative. I mean discuss certain joint activities, Exthelder corrected quickly. The council remains strong without humans. No one in the room believed this anymore, but they all nodded politely. On Earth, President Wright received an official message from the Galactic Council for the first time in 3 years. She read it with raised eyebrows. They're suggesting conversations about humanity's potential return to certain council functions, she told her advisors. Not a full apology, but it's a start. Her chief advisor, Steve Lopes, who had once been a diplomat at the council, laughed. 3 years ago, they said we needed them more than they needed us. Now they're practically begging for our help. Not begging, President Wright corrected him. That would require admitting they were wrong. They're suggesting we might want to come back because they think we missed them. Do we? Steve asked. Life has been good on Earth since we left the galactic politics behind. President Wright looked out her window at the busy streets of Washington, D.C. We're explorers at heart, Steve. We always have been. We don't belong only on Earth. So we'll go back? Steve asked. We'll talk, the president said. But this time, it will be as true equals or not at all. 4 years after humans left the council, entire worlds began to face new dangers. Without human environmental engineers, planets that had once been healthy were now sick. Plants were dying. Animals were going extinct. Air was becoming hard to breathe on some worlds. On the garden world Terra Nova, famous for its beautiful forests and fields, the trees were turning brown. Flowers stopped blooming. The small animals that helped plants grow by spreading pollen had almost all died. Greg Wilson, who had once worked for Earth Biotech, received a message from his old friend Ishera, a leader among Terra Nova's people. Our world is dying, Greg, Ishera said, her green face lined with worry. The council sent bioengineers, but they only made things worse. They fixed one problem and created 3 more. Greg looked at the data Ishera sent. The council engineers had tried to save the crop plants by killing insects that ate them. But those insects had been food for the animals that spread pollen. Without pollinators, no new plants could grow. I'll be there in 1 week, Greg promised. And I'll bring help. Greg gathered 20 of Earth's best environmental scientists. They loaded their ship with equipment and supplies and headed to Terra Nova, even though they had no official permission from the council. When they arrived, the situation was worse than they had thought. Not just the forests, but also the oceans were dying. The council engineers had treated each problem alone, not understanding how all living things on a planet work together. Your council experts tried to fix symptoms without understanding connections, Greg explained to Ishera. We need to restore the entire ecosystem, not just the parts you can see. Greg's team worked day and night. They brought in new pollinators. They cleaned the water. They planted special trees that could clean the air. They taught the local people how all these things work together. After 1 month, green began to return to Terra Nova. Small animals came back. The air grew cleaner. But then council enforcer ships arrived. "You are conducting unauthorized human interference," the lead enforcer said to Greg over the communication system. "You will cease all activities and leave Terra Nova immediately." Before Greg could answer, hundreds of Terra Nova's people surrounded the human camp. They carried simple tools and stood in front of the human scientists. "These humans are our guests," Ishera told the enforcers. "They are saving our world when the council failed us." More ships appeared in the sky. But these were not council ships. They were ships from Terra Nova, old and simple, but many in number. They formed a line between the council enforcers and the planet. "Leave our system," the Terra Nova ship captain told the enforcers. "Our people have chosen humans over council authority." The enforcers, not wanting to start a fight, left. But news of what happened spread across every world in the galaxy. A council member world had openly defied the council to protect humans. In his private chamber, Thuller watched recordings of these events with growing alarm. He turned to his 3 most trusted advisors. "This cannot stand," he said. "If one world can defy us, others will follow." "The problem is clear," said Advisor Mira. "The Council is failing to solve problems that humans solve easily. Perhaps it is time to officially invite humans back," suggested Advisor Krell. Exteller still struggled with his pride. "No, not yet." But behind his back, Mira, Krell, and 5 other powerful council members began meeting in secret. They drafted a proposal for humanity's return that would give Earth more power and respect than before. "Exteller will never agree to this," Krell warned. "Then perhaps it is time for new leadership," Mira replied quietly. On Earth, President Wright received reports about Terra Nova with a thoughtful expression. "The Council is starting to crack," she told her cabinet. "Not just at the edges now, but at its core." "Is that what we wanted?" asked Vice President Joe Garcia. "What we wanted was respect," Wright answered. "The question now is, how much of the galaxy will break before they finally understand humans were not just tools, but equals?" 5 years after humans left the Council, the problems had grown too big to ignore. The galaxy now faced 3 major crises at once. Many planets were running out of food and fuel. Millions of refugees were fleeing from worlds with failing life support systems, and a civil war was brewing between the rich inner worlds and the struggling outer ones. In the Grand Council chamber, Chairperson Exteller stood before the remaining council members. Many seats were empty. Some species had stopped coming to meetings. Others had officially left the council, following Earth's example. "We must stay united," Exteller said, his voice shaking. "The council has stood for 3,000 years. We cannot let it fall apart now." No one responded. The room was silent except for the sound of emergency alerts beeping on communication devices around the table. Suddenly, Exteller's composure broke. He slammed his fists on the table and cried out, "Everything is falling apart. How did the humans make it look so easy?" The outburst shocked everyone. For 5 years, Exteller had insisted the council was fine without humans. Now he had admitted the truth in front of everyone. After the meeting, 3 council members approached Exteller privately. "We have been talking directly with Earth," said Shillera, the Aquilarian diplomat, "without your knowledge. We apologize for the secrecy, but it was necessary." Exteller was too tired to be angry. "What did they say? Will they return to save us?" "They are willing to talk," Shillera said, "but not with you. They want new leadership before they consider rejoining." Exteller nodded slowly. He had known this day might come. "I will step down tomorrow. My pride has cost the galaxy too much already." On a neutral space station halfway between Earth and the Council headquarters, Ambassador William Carter met with representatives from 7 major Council species. President Wright had chosen him to lead these critical talks. "We appreciate you meeting with us," said Shillera. "We were wrong about humans. We took your contributions for granted. Now the Council is falling apart." William nodded. "Humans don't want to rule or dominate the galaxy. We never did. We only wanted to be respected as equals, not treated like tools to be used and then ignored." "What would it take for humans to return?" asked the Novalian representative. "A new organization," William said firmly. "Not the old council with humans added back in. Something truly equal where all species work together and all voices matter the same." The aliens looked at each other nervously. "That would mean the end of the old power structure," said the Draconian representative. "Some species have held more power than others for thousands of years." "Yes," William agreed. "That's exactly the problem. The old ways don't work anymore. The past 5 years have proven that." As they continued talking, urgent news arrived. 3 major council species, the Centaurians, the Rigelians, and the Tausetians, had just announced they were also leaving the council. "Why now?" asked William, surprised. "They're saying the same thing you humans said 5 years ago," explained Shillera. "That the council is broken, unable to solve the real problems facing the galaxy." The room grew quiet as everyone realized what was happening. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 3,000 years, was truly collapsing. "Perhaps," William said carefully, "this is actually good news. Sometimes the old must fall before the new can rise." "What do you mean?" asked the Draconian. "I mean it might be easier to build something new from scratch than to fix something that's been broken for so long," William explained. "Not just a new council, but a completely new way for all our species to work together." The aliens considered this. Slowly, they began to nod. "Will Earth help us build this new organization?" asked Shillera. "Yes," William said, "but as partners, not saviors. The future must be built by all of us together." As the meeting continued, William sent a private message back to Earth. "The old council is finished, but something better might be about to begin." 6 years after humans left the old Galactic Council, a new day dawned for the galaxy. On a beautiful neutral planet with blue skies and green fields, thousands gathered to watch history being made. A large stage had been built on a hillside. On it stood President Samantha Wright of Earth and leaders from 27 former council species. Behind them was a simple table with a document. "Today we signed the charter for the new interstellar cooperative," President Wright said to the crowd. "This is not a council where some rule over others. This is a true partnership of equals." The alien leaders nodded in agreement. Many of them had once thought humans were less important than their own species. Now they knew better. Extiller was not there. The former council leader had resigned in shame. Many of the old council leaders were also missing. They were struggling to remain important as their power disappeared. "Today marks not a human victory, but a universal one," Wright continued. "We learned from our isolation, just as you learned from our absence. Together, we will build something better than before." One by one, the leaders stepped forward to sign the new charter. Each signature was met with cheers from the crowd. The charter had been written mostly by human diplomatic experts, but with input from all species. It promised equal representation for all worlds, respect for different cultures, and working together to solve problems that affected everyone. As the ceremony continued, urgent news arrived. A star in the Cygnus sector was becoming unstable. It would soon explode into a supernova, threatening several inhabited worlds. In the old days, the council would have argued for weeks about what to do. But now, something remarkable happened. Within hours, the first joint human-alien emergency team was formed. The team included Nicole Foster, a human engineer, and Klar, a draconian physicist who had once hated humans. Their ship, the fastest in the new fleet, jumped to the Cygnus sector. 5 more ships followed, carrying experts from 12 different species. Working together, they built giant shields around the inhabited planets. Nicole's engineering skills and Kilar's knowledge of physics created a solution that neither could have made alone. When the star finally exploded, its deadly energy was deflected away from the shielded worlds. Billions of lives were saved. As their ship headed home, Kilar turned to Nicole with a question that had been bothering him. "I must know," he asked, "did humans plan this all along? Your withdrawal that forced us to recognize your value." Nicole laughed. "We're good problem solvers, not fortune tellers. But sometimes the universe needs to learn lessons the hard way." Kilar nodded thoughtfully. "My people have a saying. The strongest metal must pass through fire. Perhaps the galaxy needed this difficult time to become stronger." Back on Earth, President Wright met with her cabinet to discuss the new cooperative. For the first time in 6 years, human ships were traveling to every corner of the galaxy again. Human experts were working side by side with aliens as true partners. "The reports are good," said Vice President Garcia. "The new cooperative is already solving problems the old council ignored for centuries. And the best part," added Secretary Lopes, "is that we're no longer doing all the work. Every species is contributing their best skills." Wright looked out at the stars visible through her office window. "That was always the point. Humans didn't want to run the galaxy. We just wanted everyone to work together as equals." Across the stars, a new age was beginning. Ships bearing the symbol of the interstellar cooperative, a circle of stars with no one star in the center, traveled between worlds that were healing from years of neglect. It was not perfect. There were still arguments and mistakes. But now, when problems arose, all species faced them together. The galaxy had learned its lesson. No single species had all the answers, but together, they could solve any problem. And it had only taken humans leaving to make everyone understand.